Guys, at the end of this video, I'll show you with these blocks how to make a very simple version of the stove that we're going to look at. Hey everybody, it's Stove Talk with Matt. I'm going to show you via this program, this CAD program, where it's computer design from this Russian stove maker. His name's Alexi. I'll leave a link at the bottom, but it's all in Russian. I'm going to show you how you can make this beautiful, gigantic Russian stove or masonry heater, but I'm going to show you exactly how he made it. We'll go over his step-by-step. But again, I cater to the person that's new, that's novice. There are simple versions of this that anyone can do. You don't have to make the arch or do all this stuff. And the reason for this video is to show you the simple version of this stove, because the core of it is very simple. He expanded it, put in a cooking plate, did a lot of things that the novice couldn't do. So let me jump around here and I wanted to go to 1439. Bear with me as I jump around here. Sorry, I have to do this a bit. That's the stove. They use these computer programs. Now, again, very intricate, but you'll see as we go through the core of it, anyone can do this. And there's even a simpler version if you wanted to make it a little bit smaller and a little bit thinner, where you don't need lintels or angle irons, just stacking fire bricks. All right, so what's going to happen in this stove, of course, this is where you load the wood. This is the blower door and the ash door. The air goes in, the ash door comes up through a grate. Almost all Russian stoves use a grate. The fire slams against this cook plate. In this design, I'll show you what your options would be if you want to build it. It's pulled, the fire and the gases are pulled all the way down here to the left, which they go up into a second chamber. They're pulled all the way around to the right. It's basically like that second bell approach, a box on top of a box. And then they wind their way out through the chimney. So again, I'm going to go over how he built it, show you or tell you everything you need to know if you want to build this exact stove. Then I'll show you, tell you about the simpler version, and then the simplest, absolute simplest version if you wanted to make this yourself and make it a little bit thinner, just out of fire bricks. You'd have to do the whole thing in fire brick. So this is the base of the stove. Again, the wood is loaded in here. The fire and gas is pulled down here, second bell, back and out. All right, let me go to, this is a good thing to show you. Now, one thing that has to be explained here, the Russians have the advantage of their fire bricks. They can get the same size red bricks as fire bricks. So they'll construct a fire brick firebox, which we can't do in the same way here in the United States. Our fire brick by 9 inches by 4.5 is never the same as red brick. You can't get a red brick. Oh, isn't that nice, right? That corresponds. I couldn't believe it when I first found this out years ago. I can't get a red brick the same size as this fire brick? No, unless you have them custom made and ordered and all this stuff. But no, so basically we're forced to make this entire stove out of fire brick. Or if you wanted to use red brick and fire brick, you have to end up making like 100 and some cuts with the red brick. So as I go through this and the simple versions, I assume somebody's going to build this entire stove out of fire brick. The fire brick is twice as expensive as a regular brick, probably like $2.15 to $2.20 per brick. Can be as low as $2.05 per brick, but it will absorb heat. The regular fire brick's heavy and will absorb heat in the same way as a red brick. So you can make an entire double bell stove out of just fire brick, and it'll hold up just fine for years. So anyway, let's get into the design. Right now he has not constructed the firebox, which is a yellow or a tan brick. This is the ash door, or door which will allow the air in, and then this area over here is where basically you could also turn, if you didn't want to use a lot of bricks, you could make this into a very simple bench stove as well. But let me not bore you too long on one picture. So here, okay, starting to construct the fire brick firebox inside the red brick exterior walls, and they would put basically like a piece of cardboard down to separate. There has to be separation between the fire brick and the red brick because the fire brick expands rapidly and it'll push out and crack the red brick. You put the cardboard in, the cardboard burns up, it leaves a little bit of space, room for expansion. This is extremely difficult for anybody listening To me, because in the U.S. our red bricks are not the same size as the fire brick, you can do it if you have a great gigantic wet saw and you can make a bunch of cuts with red brick, no problem. But so here he's laying out the base with the red brick, and then the fire brick fits right on top perfectly. We don't have that option in the U.S. Basically, what you're seeing here, the outline of the red brick. If you wanted to construct it, you would just use the outline here of what's shown in red brick as your fire brick, and that would be fine. We wouldn't have a separate firebox as he's constructed here. So let me go through this a little bit more quickly. Here he's started to construct the first mini chimney up into the second bell. So this is the firebox. Wood is loaded in from this side. As this wall goes up, there'll be at the top there'll be a hole here in this wall that allow the gases to flow over the top, and then they want to rise, right? So they're gonna hit the top here, and the only way to get into the second bell or out into the chimney, out the house, is they will have to dive down, and they'll have to slip under here, and they'll have to slip under here, and you'll see how this is constructed in a moment. I'm going to skip around. Let me see and put my hand on pause. Yeah. You'll see the hole, dive down. The gases will basically hit this brick in the middle. Some will go this way, some will go this way. They're allowed two entrances into this first little lifting chamber that goes into the second bell. The reason for this is this stove is 2.5 wide. So this is a Kuznetsov design that he's copied. It's from stove.ru. Kuznetsov does a great job with his stoves where if you create a shelf in the middle here, you can then for your ceiling to separate the first bell from the second bell, or your ceiling at the top of the stove, you'll just lay bricks across. This shelf will hold your ceiling. You don't need lintels or angle irons to hold your bricks. Also, having a bunch of bricks piled up in the middle here just adds mass. Any opportunity to add 150 to 200 pounds of mass, or whatever it is a good idea. A lot of people build these stoves. They put a rocket stove or a batchbox rocket stove into a gigantic bell, into a gigantic square of red brick, and 80% of the square of red brick is completely open. And I'm always saying, well, why not fill as much as you can, fill up that square, that bell, with mass? Even in the best way to do that is with cinder block or cement block with the holes. Just a cement block that allows a lot of air. If obviously you fill it up with mass, you don't want to block your entrances and your exits. So playing again, let me move a little bit more quickly. He went back, going forward. Oh, don't lock up. No, it's just going to be a little slow. Of course, that when they make a slit like that in front of the door, the slit allows a little bit of air to flow up and wash the glass, so your glass doesn't get black. Sometimes when the glass gets black, if you burn your firebox hot enough, eventually that black and that char will burn off because of the heat. So there, to create a place for the grate, he makes a lip. Fire brick is very easy to cut on a wet saw. Just use a wet saw or wear a mask. It's dangerous with the silica and the sand. You shouldn't. Red brick you can breathe if you cut it. You don't want to breathe fire brick or silica sand if you cut it. He's making a lip there, which eventually will hold the grate. There's the grate. Again, we're not the people that I'm talking to aren't going to do this because again, your red brick and fire brick don't go together. What we'll do, and I'll show you how to do that, is just make the whole thing out of fire brick. We're not going to do a fire brick, a firebox inside of a red brick box. The whole thing will be made out of fire brick. So I'm going to skip forward. I don't know. I don't know why it's so slow here, guys. Okay, there he's starting to create the Russian dry slot, dry seam, or dry joint. So very, very shortly after the firebox, there's a little seam of, Kuznetsov says 2 to 3 centimeters, but I would make it wider, of say 1 inch or just under an inch. That allows some of the gases to immediately start escaping into this second chamber over here. This is not the primary way your gases and flame are going to get into this chamber, but it's always, I think this slit or slot is really a good idea for a lot of reasons. I don't want to spend too much time on it here, but almost right away, just with a little bit less than 1 inch, allow the gases to immediately start, if you can. Now, if you're blocked there by red brick, it looks like he's blocked, but he would have had made another slit in that red brick to allow the gases to come through into that chamber off to the left. Yeah, you can. He's put a slit in both. It helps with draft. It helps with initial draft. It helps with priming. There's a lot of reasons for it. You lose a little bit of efficiency, but most of the flame wants to shoot straight up. Most of the flame does not want to go through that slit. And, I don't want to get into what the Russians believe, that all the cool gases escape early. That, to me, that's a bunch of BS. But we'll talk about that some other time. Okay, starting to make the hole, the major hole, so the flame and the gases from the firebox can escape over into that secondary chamber. Starting to make the hole. Again, flames, here he will have a cooking plate on top here. And then there's also a second bell on top. We'll talk about what your options are if you're a novice and you don't want to make the arch and the cooking plate and all the little add-ons. So with the hole here, the flames, it will start shooting through this little slit, which I recommend, and then the hole gets big. Flames will pour over the top here. Hit this. This is basically, again, just it adds mass, and it's a place for your ceiling bricks to rest on, so you don't have to use lintels or angle irons. Some of the gases, again, they'll hit this wall. They will find their way out, but they'll have to dive down and go under here, and they'll dive down and go under here and up this first lifting channel into the second bell. If you just wanted to make if this was all you had for your stove and you just wanted to go up higher and just make it just this an L stove, you could also extend this firebox this way and make it much longer than this. You could make it a bench stove, or if you just wanted to make it an L stove per the way it had to fit into your living room or in your house, it still would be close to 1,000 bricks, and it still would be a heck of a masonry heater if you decided not to do the second bell and all the add-ons. Still be 5 times better than an iron stove or a regular stove. But remember, all these brick stoves, they take 2 hours to fully radiate out their heat. They need to be burned for 1.5 hours to 2 hours twice a day, like all winter, without any days off, or they just don't work. They're not good for quick heat at all. Not good if you just want to light it up on a Saturday night. That's not what these stoves are for. Twice a day, 8 weeks in a row. That's what these stoves are for. Then they never are allowed to truly go cold. Okay. Oh, here, see, okay. There's so many things these stove makers do, guys, that we don't need to do. Flame, he's now reversed it from the back. The door is here. These angled bricks, there's no reason for this. This guy's a master stove maker. I assure you, just make a hole, a nice big hole. There's no reason to make angled cuts so your flame, no, it means less than 1%. Okay, there you can see it. Little angle up, it really, forget that stuff, guys. It doesn't, it might mean 0.5% in terms of efficiency, or, sometimes these guys they don't want to make them too simple for their clients. That's how they make their living. You can see the dry seam here starts immediately. And again, if you're just doing this all in firebrick, your firebrick then is, you just make the stove, the red brick here that you see would be your firebrick. And there would be no box inside the box. I'll talk about that a little bit later. You still can make your dry seam and allow the gases to escape immediately. Okay. I'm a little bit slower than I thought, guys. I need to speed it up a bit. And again, I have little tiny mini bricks downstairs stacked up. I'll show you the real simple design at the end. All right. Let me go back. There's the door, and I'll show you the door. There's some relatively inexpensive doors from Firespeaking. I've spoken to the owner. I've never ordered from them. I can only assume they're reputable. The guys seem nice. The Firespeaking doors they look like they're good quality, and they're several $100s less than the doors at other places. It's firespeaking, I believe, .com. I'll do a whole video on them at some point. Okay, there you go. You can see flames come up. There's going to be a cook plate on top. So the ceiling will be, they'll slam against an iron cook plate and be pushed left through this hole. Always err on making your hole a little bit larger. Never choke it off. Never try to get too cute. If you lose a little efficiency, you'll have to add an extra 2 or 3 logs a day extra. Big deal. Don't want to get too perfect if you're a novice. Again, he's combining fire brick with red brick, which we're not going to do. The general principle here is a great simple stove you can do all in fire brick, and I'll show you how to do that. Let me skip ahead. We're not making these angle cuts. There is no reason for it. Just bake a freaking hole. And then I like this shelf here for a lot of reasons. You can, the difference between the first bell and the second bell on top, you have to make a ceiling. Your bricks will completely close everything off except this lifting channel that allow the gases of the flame to get up into the second bell. It allows you just to lay your bricks across without a metal lintel or angle iron, which you need. If you have to bridge a big gap, that's what you need to use. And then people put insulation around them because they warp a bit, and if you can avoid it, especially if it's right in the path of the flame. So fast forwarding, there's your hole. Okay, there he goes. He's got the cook plate, putting the cook plate on top. Now, this isn't a really, even if you're not going to cook, this isn't a bad idea if you're going to make this sort of stove, because this cook plate will act like a little mini wood stove and immediately get hot and start to radiate. So if you have a hybrid, Matt, I need a stove that makes heat right away. A lot of heat will be thrown from the door, and a lot of heat will come off this cook plate. Without a cook plate, you could also put a piece of soapstone on top that would heat up to red hot in just about 10 minutes versus the hour and a half a fire brick would take. So it's a hybrid approach. You can get some little bit of quick heat out of it if you do something like this. If you put a cook plate on, though, or a piece of soapstone, this is a personal thing with me, carbon monoxide, and just without all the details, you don't want to take any chances. You got to seal the absolute crap out of this, even if it looks ugly. If your flames are pounding up into this cook plate and you don't have this thing sealed right, you got to check to make. You do not want gases and carbon monoxide. Extremely dangerous what these Russians do to have the flames pounding up against these cook plates, and they'll even remove the discs for the cooking. I don't know. If their house is airy and the air flows through, it's safe. American houses are airtight. It's extremely dangerous. I don't want to harp on it for personal reasons. If you're going to add a plate, make sure you are triple safe. All right. Trying to move a little bit faster here. Fast forward. Same principles. Since there's a cook plate, he needs to make a whole space on top for the cooking and to get in there to put the frying pan on. He puts in an arch for decorative reasons. Again, the novices that are going to make this are not going to put in the arch. Let me finish up. Okay, there we go. This is the first chamber, first bell completed. Gases slam against the cook plate. They're pushed left through the hole. They go across here and they have to dive down to get into the lifting channel. They're going to come up. Why are there 2 holes here, Matt? Well, one's going to be a damper. You can see this is cut out already for the damper. And one is going to be the primary lifting channel to get into the second bell, the second box on top of a box. This damper will be here for the first startup or the priming of it. It's needed because this stove will just smoke your house out. You can't, with these intricate designs, you can't just throw wood in here and light it. It'll smoke your entire house out. And who knows how long it would take to prime. You have to have a way to prime the stove, to have a quick path for the gases to escape, to get into the chimney, to heat the chimney so the chimney starts pulling. Then when you close the damper, which then starts winding the gases around, they'll continue to wind around and get out. Without this, you'll smoke your entire house out. But this is a great example of proper use of a damper. So again, he's created that that first ceiling. Remember those bricks in the middle that I called the shelf? Just laying bricks across with the shelf holding everything up without lintels going across, without angle irons. And let me skip forward. There you go. There is the lifting channel, remember, was in the back. Gases escape, go underneath this way, go under this way, up the lifting channel. But when the stove is first lit for the very first time, the damper is opened, so the gases don't have to dive down and come up this lifting channel. The gases will then flow right across the top and up this, through the damper, into the second box, into the second bell, and then right up through the chimney, warming the chimney. Once the chimney gets to be a few hundred degrees, just sometimes 5 minutes of burning, not even. You could, err on the side of 10 minutes of burning. Close the damper, then that forces all the gases low, but they're going to be forced low, and they're going to wind around the stove because you've primed everything and heated everything up first. So this is also the correct use of a damper, because I don't want to get into it too much, but these dampers, they're not completely airtight, and they could potentially let a little smoke or carbon monoxide out underneath the plate here. But I shouldn't even be mentioning this. This is kind of a complex subject. This is a perfect location for a damper. People put these dampers right in the line of the fire, right in the line of where the gases and the smoke go, and I think it's a little dangerous, but we'll talk about that some other time. Hold on. Okay, where were we? Play. And fast forward to 17-minute video. We're about at 10 minutes. Okay, she's just showing you there. It's stove.ru. The plans for the more complicated stove are under OBNK. It's all in Russian. This is the section for cooking and heating stoves. It's Kuznetsov's website. It's stove.ru. But you don't need this. He shows you everything here. Again, I'll show you a simple design. Now here it looks like the stove's done, right? That's only the first bell. That's only the first section that's completed. But you could finish there, of course. You don't have to continue with the second bell, but it's just some massive masonry heater at thousands of pounds of stored thermal mass if you want to do the second bell on top. And this is a pretty classic way of how the second bells or the bells on top are done. Once the damper is closed here, again, the lifting channel here is in the back. The gases, this will become a wall. The gases will wind around, and you know where the ultimate chimney is going to be through the roof of where the damper is where the chimney is going to be. So it's going to be up the front here, I'm sure. Why, is this, like somebody that's new, is this absolutely necessary? A way for the gases to escape here and to go around here? No, again, remember, he's just using this brick as a way to hold other bricks. This is not necessary at all for the design or the physics of the stove. This is just here to hold bricks for when you make your ceiling. Something's got to hold them up without lintels or angle irons. So just make sure you have enough room for some of the gases will come around here, but some will also be pushed here, and this won't be that hot. Most will want to escape. They have a mind of their own. They want to escape as soon as possible. But some will go around the side. This will heat up as well. The idea behind all these stoves is to have all the bricks touch the hot gases and have them all heat up relatively equally. I'm going to go back and show you the clean out doors. There's 2 clean out doors there. There's also 2 clean out doors at the bottom on the base. Very, very important to be able to get in and clean it out. They usually say they only have to clean them like once a year. There's usually not much in there. But if you're burning the wrong kind of wood, or it's wet, or if it backs up, like, you need the way to clean out. It's just the whole thing's for nothing if you back up, or you have a creosote problem. And so same principle here. Let me go back actually. Okay. So where the lifting channel was in the back here, he'll go up. Does he go up 2 or 3 rows before they start making that next wall? So the gases, this will go way up. The gases will come all the way up, and then they'll have to wrap around in this form here, but much, much higher. They'll wrap around, and they want to stay high. They'll have to, dive down to get underneath and up the final channel to get out. So let's see how many. So there's three bricks. 1, 2, 3. So it's 2.5 for a fire brick on its side. So it'd be 7.5 inches is what that's a good space, is what they're allowing for the gases to escape underneath. Again, Matt, can I do 2 bricks? There's no reason to choke it off. There's no reason to be too perfect. The whole thing won't work. Always err on letting the gases out more quickly if you're building something like this. Again, you know, we're not master stove builders. If we can get to 80% efficiency versus the 90% they get, that's fine. It means 2 or 3 or 4 more pieces of wood a day or every other day, like big deal. So, yep. And this wall just gets bigger and bigger and taller, and this whole stove goes to 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet tall. You can basically go up as high as you want, use as many bricks as you want, and again, he's covering. He's starting to make his ceiling for the top bell. That's why. But again, you see how deep this channel is. The lifting channel. The lifting channel allows the gases can start to turn to the right as soon as possible, and then again they'll go around the bottom here this way and this way, and then again remember 3 brick opening at the bottom here to dive. Most will collect. The idea behind these bells is you want some of the heat, at least for a few seconds, to collect up at the top and then eventually work their way down underneath and out. This front part here will be the ultimate or the final way out of the house into the chimney and through the attic, out the house. And then of course another damper will be placed. The stove is now finished. This is the ceiling on the second bell, and they always put that second damper in, which is extremely dangerous. Again, if you don't know what you're doing, when the Russians at night say they've burnt this they've been doing this hundreds and hundreds of years. They burn it for an hour and a half, 5 or 6 logs. Because it's burnt twice a day for 6 months in many parts of Russia, 6 months in a row. It's burned twice a day with no days off. The bricks always keep a degree of warmth, so they never have to reprime. They never have to restart draft because the bricks are always kind of staying warm. The priming's only done once. But when it's just coals, and I don't know if they do it when the coals are red or even they close this final damper, this is the pipe up through the attic and through the chimney. They close it off completely, so the heat stays in the stove, but also if it's negative 20 degrees outside, you don't have ice cold air rushing down into the stove to cool all the bricks down. If you go to light it in the morning, the whole thing will back up in your face or out in your living room because it's now gone ice cold. So I guess it might be even the main reason for the damper is to keep the cold air out. But they've all told the stories. If you have a bunch of hot coals and you close this off too soon, it's a carbon monoxide smoke poisonous gas fest. You got to be extremely careful. And if you're in the United States and it's 38 degrees low, don't even think about, if you do a top damper, don't even think about it closing it all the way. I can understand why they need to do if it's negative 25 degrees in Russia. You want to at least leave a slit open. Anyway, sorry about the safety thing. I have a personal issue with it because I had a real serious problem that might have been caused by this sort of thing. All right, let's go forward. And now shows you the guts of it here, which is always fun. See, the Russians, the way they do it, they'll put the stove touching, 4 different rooms or 3 different rooms. This wall will touch this bedroom. The front side here where you load the wood is the living room. This wall will touch this room or the dining room. So they put it right in the middle. It heats 3 rooms at the same time if it's not an open floor plan. Ideally, the stove is built before let me go back. The stove is built first, and the house is built around the stove, is the way they typically do it. So this is from the back side. The door is here. You can see this is the hole, the firebox, the grate. Air comes up from under through the grate. The hole where the gases pour into this first chamber, or this little, first bell goes off to the side, as we looked at. Again, the angling it up means nothing. Just make a big hole. Here's where the gases will collect. They talk about this. People are so in love with the stratification. I know I don't have to mention every time. The gases don't like perfectly stratify, but the idea is to keep the hot gases up here for a few more seconds before they have to dive down and underneath. 3-brick opening to get under into the first lifting chamber. Into the second bell, which they'll be forced around the corner here, up and out. That angle going up drives me nuts because it's useless, but anyway. There's the cooking plate. There's the little arch. I'll tell you what you can do. If you don't need to be able to copy this exactly. There are simpler versions of this, and this is already getting too long, so I want to get to the simpler versions. Okay, this is a great cutaway of how the two dampers work. When you're priming it, again, this top damper is almost always going to be open, except at night when it's -20 to keep that cold air out. So, of course, there's all sorts of stories of people forgetting to open the damper. It's just a nightmare. You should put a big, remember Kevin Bacon in Apollo 13, don't touch the buttons. Don't ever push this in unless you have to. There should be a big sign. But when you prime it, this damper goes out. The flames, there's the flames come through here. And then when this damper is open, they can just rush right up and out the chimney. Flames just shooting up the straight shot out through the attic, through the roof, heating all of this, heating and priming it. So when the damper is closed, then gas is, nowhere to go but to dive down and go up into the lifting chamber, up into the next bell. They're going to go where they're supposed to go once everything is preheated. Play, finish. I'll go back and show you the... we could go through exactly what's going on here, but it wouldn't do anybody any good. All right, guys, I guess that's it. And it's it for this part. I'll show you what the stove looks like finished in just a moment. It's really a nice stove. Remember, you get really hot burn immediately with a grate. Let me go back. When you have a grate and the air comes from that ash door up through the wood, you get, it just starts burning like crazy, like a raging fire immediately. But, you don't have any coals in the morning or anything like that. A fire on a grate with air coming through doesn't last very long. It's supposed to burn at super high temperatures for a short period of time. You don't have any sort of coals to relight in the morning or what you would have with an ironwood stove. There's the cook plate on top, which acts like a little mini iron stove to get some heat initially, because this thing will take 2 hours to start radiating out heat. Okay, really cool. Let me go back to the beginning there. The base. Remember, the openings there on the left, your 2 clean-out doors at the bottom too. So you've got 2 clean-out doors at the bottom of the first bell, and then in the exact same positions, 2 clean-out doors at the bottom. They probably at firespeaking.com too. Gotta have a way to get in and clean it out, guys. Absolutely essential. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to say just take the video camera down to the bricks I have downstairs to show you how you can make a really easy version of this stove. Okay, guys, like some crazy man, I play with these blocks and these bricks all the time. This is a super easy version of the stove we just looked at. The wood would be loaded in here. This is your grate, of course. And now this whole thing is made, you would make it just out of fire brick. There would be no, fire brick inside of a red brick. And then this one is much thinner. Your firebox here in this one see, is only 2 bricks across. Now, I don't think there's any problem. This means that the width of the firebox is only 9 inches, 1 fire brick. I think this is just fine. In fact, you get less smoke because a thin firebox, all the heat is radiated and stays in a small area. All the heat radiates off the sides of the fire brick. You get less smoke. I love these 2 brick across designs. And of course, my own stove is the same way, and I've tested them with hundreds of different trials that it works. Anyway, so it's so simple. If you want to build the same stove we just looked at, just do 2 bricks across, all fire brick. So here, again, this is your firebox, and you initially start building up this wall high, and at some point right about here, again, you just make your square so the flames can shoot up. Remember, this is that second chamber on the left, so that they can get into this chamber. And how you would do that is very simple. You would simply at some point, you would do it like this. You'd build it up like this, and this is not the scale, of course. You'd do this much higher up, but you just make a little opening like that. I would do, well, that's a half a brick. I probably would do 4. I always want to err on the side of letting the gases, but you wouldn't do it that low, of course. This is just not the scale. You would do it much higher up. And if you can, put that slit in like we talked about, the dry slit. So this the flames would shoot up high here, 2 feet in the air, and then the whole opening would be higher, just like in the video we looked at. Okay, because your whole stove here is only 2 bricks wide, 2 fire bricks, 9 and 9, it's 18 inches. You're going to do the whole thing out of fire brick, and then again 2 bricks here. So your lifting channel, you don't have the room to do what they did 2 ways in, like remember with Alexi's video. Your lifting channel would look like this. 2 bricks go across here, and you just mortar the middle. You're going to have bricks on top of these that will hold them down. If you're not going to have bricks on top, you'd need a lintel. You'd need a way to secure them better than this. But your lifting channel then just starts to look like this. See, look, I'm a nut. Well, look at all these bricks. It's all I do in my free time. I don't have dates or anything like that. So there you go. There's the starting the lifting channel. And of course, it's not just, you don't just have 1 brick underneath. You have 3 bricks underneath. This is not to scale. And then this, you can continue your lifting channel. You just stagger. Of course, it will all hold if you stagger. Hold on. Sorry, guys. If you stagger, it'll hold. So there's your lifting channel. And it's not to scale. You can run this down another 2 or 3 feet. You can run, it's just a reverse L. You can run it down as long as you want. Again, there's your hole to let the flames through, but again, much higher up, not the scale. Would happen higher up. They would need to dive down and go underneath a 3 brick opening, not 1 brick. Then this lifting channel would either take your gases and flame directly up out of the house through the attic, or just like what we saw in the video, you could put a ceiling on top of all this. You can make a ceiling very easily with this 2 brick design just by putting 2 bricks across, and then have a second bell where you make that ceiling. You'd have the gases then go all the way down here and then go up, and then you'd want to put, I'll show you the damper at Firespeaking. You'd want to put a damper into the back of the firebox where you could open up and for the priming of it, which is again a really simple, nice design. So your firebox only 1 brick wide. I think that's just fine. There's no, actually a super wide firebox It allows a lot of cold air in, and it smokes. I'd rather have a long and narrow firebox. You can make this as long as you want. Well, I don't think it would work at 6 more feet, but you can go out a few more feet if you have the room in the house. And once you approach, 1,000 bricks, you have the super amount of mass to have a real masonry heater.